Okay, so today we're going to finish off part 2, and we're actually going to do a lot more graphing today. This will also be the last section, so you can get on and do the review. That should be open up, and we'll have a quiz on this on Monday. So when you hear use the 7 steps for graphing, this is what they're talking about. So this is what we're going to be using. Identify if there's any symmetry in your graph. Again, plug in negative x. If your function's the same, it has y-axis symmetry. If your function's the opposite, you have symmetry at the origin. If neither of those happens, there's no symmetry, which is okay, and that happens. X-intercepts and y-intercepts, plug in 0 for x, plug in 0 for y. From yesterday, vertical and horizontal asymptotes, and then plot some points and use that to graph. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. Start with step 1. See if there's any symmetry. So we're going to do f of negative x. So we have 3 times negative x minus 3, and then negative x minus 2. And then we'll simplify it and see what happens. We have negative 3x minus 3 and negative x minus 2. Definitely not the same. Definitely not the same, so we don't have symmetry with our y-axis. And it's also not the opposite, because the opposite would have been negative 3x plus 3 and negative x plus 2. So this is no symmetry. It's neither. Which again is okay. It doesn't have to have symmetry. Alright, the next one said find the y-intercept. So we plug in 0 for x. So y equals times 0 minus 3, 0 minus 2. So we got up top we got negative 3, and the bottom we have negative 2, so y equals 3 halves. There's our y-intercept. Our x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y. Let me circle this real quick because we're going to be using that later. Multiply both sides by x minus 2, so you get 0 equals 3x minus 3. Add 3 and divide by 1. Or sorry, divide by 3 and you get 1. So there's our x-intercept. So our x-intercept and our y-intercept. Step 4 said any vertical asymptotes. Any vertical asymptotes. Remember, for vertical, you look at the denominator. And we know it's going to be x equals 2. So it's our vertical asymptote because 2 minus 2 is going to get us 0. So we cannot use x. We cannot use any x equals to 2. 5 is our horizontal asymptotes. Remember, you've got to look at your degrees. So here, my degrees are the same. So this is when you set up your coefficients. So y equals, my coefficients are 3 and 1. So y equals 3 is my horizontal asymptote. And we're going to go ahead and graph from here. And we'll pull some points in it. I know it said pull points for step 6, but we're going to pull them in a minute. So what do we got? Vertical is x equals 2. This is my vertical asymptote, so you cannot use anything there. And then horizontal is y equals 3. Again, these are dotted lines. And then we had a x-intercept of 1 and a y-intercept of 1.5 or 3 halves. Oh, don't go away. So here you already got kind of where you're going. We're going to get really, really close to our asymptote, and we're going to get really, really close to our asymptote this way. So we got this, but we need something on the other side of the asymptote. So 1, 2, how about we plug in 3? X equals 3 and 4. So we're going to plug in some points. So if x equals 3, we got 9 minus 3 is 6. And 3 minus 2 is 1, so we get 6. And then if you plug in 4, 3 times 4 is 12. Minus 3 is 9. 4 minus 2 is 2. 9 over 2 is 4.5. All right, 4.5. So we're going to go ahead and graph those. We've got 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we've got 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And again, you can kind of go from there. You know, you're going to get really, really close to the asymptote. And again, we're going to get really, really close. And that's our graph. All right, let's try another one. It's a lot of stuff, okay? You got to take your time with these, go through the steps, just take your time. All right, step 1. Let's see what our inverse looks like. Or sorry, let's see what our symmetry looks like. So we got 2 negative x squared, negative x squared minus 9. Now, negative x squared gets me positive x squared, so we have 2x squared. Here, negative x squared is positive x squared minus 9. So notice it's the same exact function, right? F of negative x equals f of x. So if you look back to the original slide, that is symmetry with the y-axis. All right, so that's our y-axis symmetry. Number 2 was find your y-intercept. So we're going to plug in 0 for x. So we've got 2 times 0 squared minus 9, which is 0 over, we don't really care, but anything, 0 divided by anything is 0. So there's my y-intercept. That's our y-intercept. And 0. X-intercept, you plug in 0 for y. So we're going to multiply both sides by x squared minus 9. We're going to divide by 2. And x equals 0. Is our x-intercept. Alright, step 4. Any vertical asymptotes? So if we factor that denominator, we have x minus 3, x plus 3. And nothing cancels, so we don't have any holes, so we're going to say our vertical asymptote is that x equals 3 and x equals negative 3. We actually have 2 vertical asymptotes here. Our horizontal asymptote, again, look at your degrees. They are the same. So our horizontal asymptote was 2 over 1. Right? Use your coefficients, 2 and a 1. So y equals 2. And I think we're ready to graph. We got a lot of information here. So let's start with the positive and negative 3, those vertical asymptotes. And positive 3. Again, these are dotted lines. And then we had y equals 2 as our horizontal asymptote. And we know our x and y intercepts were both 0. We know we have y-axis symmetry, which means whatever I do over here, I can kind of copy and paste this way. So we're definitely going to have to pick some points for this graph. So let's start with in between these two asymptotes here. So you always want to do your pieces of your graph, right? You want to find out what's on this side, what's in here, and what's over here. So let's pick some points inside. How about, we already got 0, so how about 1 and negative 1? Just to see both ways. Again, there's going to be symmetry, so we should get the same thing here. If you plug in 1, you got 2 times 1 is 2. And 1 squared is 1, minus 9 is negative 8. So you got negative 1/4. To be honest, you're going to get the same thing here, right? Because as soon as you square that negative, it becomes a positive again. So we're also going to get negative 1/4 here. So we've got 1 negative 1/4 and negative 1 negative 1/4. And we're going to see that graph. Again, it should have symmetry with the y-axis, so you should see that y-axis symmetry. Now we want to come over here. So we're at 1, 2, 3, how about -4? Let's plug in -4. Where are we at? Maybe -4 and -5. So -4 is going to get us 16 times 2 is 32. And then 16 minus 9. So you got 32 over 7, which is about 4.6-ish. Decimals are okay. If you plug in -5, you should get about 3.125-ish. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and graph this. Again, these are estimates, just to kind of see which way you're going here. So we're at -4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then -5, sorry about that. -5, 1, 2, 3.1-ish. So again, we'll get really, really close to those asymptotes. And remember that symmetry, you don't have to plug in points over here. We can kind of just copy paste. So we'll have 4, 4.6, 1, 2, 3, 4.6. And we'll have 5, 3.125. And we'll have that symmetry. So if you understand the symmetry, it can kind of save you some time graphing. Alright, I'm going to pause here and we're going to pick up for part 2 for a second video.